We know why we're here. To build a new generation of airplanes to connect the world.
Airplanes that fly cleaner and farther on less fuel.
And make non-stop travel possible to more places.
Around the globe, the people of Bayh are working together to bring us together.
That's why we're here.
You talk too much. I can't believe the things that you say.
Joe Biden.
John Kerry, John McCain.
Jack Reed. Carl Levin. John Kyle. Tom Ricks.
Evan Bayh, John Cornyn, Wesley Clark, Tom Lantos, Mike Pence.
Robert Gates. Robert Gates.
What I said was that I hoped the conditions would improve in Iraq to the extent that not only could we complete the drawdowns that General Petraeus has said he would like to make between now and July, but also that they could continue thereafter. And after all, we've got 2.1 million men and women in the United States Armed Forces. If the circumstances required it, other choices could have been made.
The question is, what happens to the 120 to 130,000 that will remain? Are they there forever? Which essentially is the administration strategy, as long as the Iraqis don't get their act together?
I will vote to change the funding to a different mission. I will fund the troops to protect the national security interests of America. The Bush-McCain strategy of escalating our troops in the middle of a civil war has no relationship directly to what you need to do to resolve the civil war.
Al-Qaeda is there now. Al-Qaeda is there now. Who blew up the mosque in Samarra? Who just went in the northern part of Iraq and killed 500 innocent, impoverished people? Who is it that continues to set off most of these suicide bombs? Surely you don't believe that General Petraeus reaches his conclusions by talking to somebody.
I'm quoting
he lives
what
and
General
works
Petraeus
there.
said.
Oh, please.
I'm quoting what he said to you, John.
General Petraeus has said hundreds of times that it is the central front in the war against terror and Al-Qaeda.
To transition the missions to counterterrorism, to force protection, to training Iraqi security forces, to initiate a withdrawal and to make that withdrawal consistent and not subject to the vagaries of what's happening in Iraq.
What makes you think that if we withdraw early, that will help them achieve what we want them to achieve? All of the evidence points to the contrary, that the more stable the situation is, the more likely it is that they will achieve success.
You don't think that Al-Qaeda would play this as a huge victory and a defeat for the U.S.?
No, I don't. I think the rest of the world would say they're finally getting smart. I think the European allies would say they're finally getting it right.
Well, I think it's a well-intentioned idea. I think it's really pretty much a backdoor effort to get the president to accelerate the drawdown so that it's an automatic kind of thing rather than based on the conditions in Iraq.
MoveOn.org is as frustrated and angry and can't with this policy. What you saw is a burst of frustration. They were wrong in saying what they said, in my view. But see, speaking of moving on, we should move on.
I thought it was off the wall, and I said so at our hearing. I think it was, frankly, totally inappropriate, and I think it backfires on the people who thought it might help their cause. And it should backfire. There is no place for that kind of personal attack.
The fact that they wrote their own testimony, I certainly accept, but that their testimony is clearly attempting to support the administration's policy is not in doubt.
Should Democrats continue to accept funds, campaign contributions from MoveOn.org?
Well, they're not from MoveOn.org. They're from millions of individuals, Americans around the country. Those are where the contributions come from.
But those members of MoveOn.org who obviously are politically active and generate a lot of campaign funds for a lot of Democrats.
That's different than an ad.
I think it's interesting. MoveOn is sort of like this old friend of the Democratic Party. It's as if it's you're a friend of yours from high school, and you don't mind hanging out with them back in high school, and then they keep showing up at your parties, and they get a little drunk and obnoxious, but you're afraid to criticize them because they know too much about you or something. Clinton's afraid to criticize MoveOn because I think the anti-war left is just ready to pop.
Well, I think what they were doing this week was really presenting the post-Bush force. You could call it the Hillary force. She may not win, but they're kind of designing a force, I think, that Hillary Clinton or another Democratic president could live with.
You made some news over this weekend by endorsing Hillary Clinton for the Democratic presidential nomination.
You need someone with experience, you need someone with character, you need someone who does their homework, who doesn't just operate on slogans, and I think Hillary Clinton is the right person.
What did you like about her more than about the others? What did she bring that they didn't bring?
She brings character. Boy, she's solid.
Barack Obama doesn't have character?
She has been through it.
There is nothing that energizes Republican voters more than going after Senator Clinton. And I think this was a deliberate move on Giuliani's part to say, I'm the person who in a general election will be toughest on her and is best able to beat her.
What are your thoughts about an attack on the integrity of a U.S. commander leading American men and women in the middle of a war?
I thought the ad was despicable.
Would you like to go on about that?
Nope.
Talk too much. I can't believe the things that you say.
Brought to you by the Boeing Company.